And I believe we are good to go. And good morning, guys. Welcome back to the channel, back with the Wandering Mariner. So today we're talking a little bit about job security. So if you are getting into the merchant marine field, thinking about joining a union, joining Military Sea Lift Command, I think this is a really important video for you because you need to understand a little bit of history and kind of how things work within the U.S. maritime industry. So this week, I got my seafarer's log, and if you are getting new into the maritime industry, you'll know that this is sent out to all union members every month. And in there, they cover everything from what classes are available to what union halls have, how many mariners in, how many are ashore, how many people are retiring, how many people maybe passed away. They kind of do it like a tribute page. Also in there, they also talk about what ships and contracts that the unions have been able to sign and bring into the fleet. And also, I commonly see pictures of all the union representatives with politicians in politicians' offices doing grip and grins all the time. And at first, I thought this was some type of nepotism or I didn't really understand it. Here's a picture of this week of President Biden, or I should say President Biden with the union VP. So, and he always says, he's very pro-union. But unions have an important part in the maritime industry. And I didn't really understand why they were meeting with all these politicians until I found about the Maritime or the Merchant Mariner Act of 1920, also referred to as the Jones Act. So what that is the Jones Act, more or less, is a law that was passed by Congress and the government saying that all ships that sail between U.S. ports have to be manned by U.S. mariners, or merchant mariners, and officers. And this is a really important act because after World War I, America had a huge shortage of American shipping. Some things were sank during the war, some things were commandeered, and America was very dependent on foreign flag ships for goods coming back and forth for overseas and with even in our own ports. And we kind of thought for our own national security, we need to have this act enacted to protect the mariner and our own national interests. So they started this Merchant Mariner Act of 1920, and what that did is it kind of protected shipyard building for American ships. Also, it enabled that only American sailors would work between those ports. And that would also include Puerto Rico, Alaska, and Hawaii. So with that, these grip and grins kind of have to happen between politicians and the unions. So who all kind of are the active lobbyists for the Jones Act and kind of protecting mariner rights? And that comes down to Seafarers International Union, AMO, which is the American Maritime Officers Union, MEBA, which is the Marine Engineers Beneficial Association, and the Transportation Workers Union. So these four unions are the big players when it comes to the Jones Act and protecting these rights for workers. And during there's good and bad of the Jones Act. And these lobbyists and a lot of your dues and stuff go to this action to put together money for PACs to, I don't want to say buy votes, but more or less, personally, I think that's what they're doing, is they are trying to get congressmen and senators to continue to support this act, to support national interests. And that helps when they can get meetings with these congressmen when they donate, right? So that's the dirty deal that kind of goes on with all business and corporations in America, is you have to get access to these people. That's why a lot of industries, a lot of companies have offices in Washington, D.C., even though their headquarters might be here in Madison, Wisconsin. They'll have an office there just to meet with politicians, just to promote their interests. So kind of getting back to it. Now, some of the downfalls of this act have kind of turned into an Achilles heel for certain parts of our country, i.e., Alaska, Hawaii, and Puerto Rico, because they have to use American manned ships to deliver their goods. And when you get American manned ships, you get American manned ship prices, which are a lot more expensive. And if you look at other countries around the world, they have contracted out a lot of the positions on board their ships. If you look at British ships, you will see ships that are piloted by Indian, Filipino, other nations, maritime industry captains and crew members, because they will do the jobs much cheaper than American mariners. So the Jones Act is super important if you are a mariner and you want to be in the merchant marine, or you're sailing for military sea lift command and these companies out there that support it, because of this. We need that security to ensure that our own national interests are being taken care of. Military Sea Lift Command, AMO, SIU, they support a lot of the U.S. Navy. And with that, you need to make sure that everybody's screened and there's security measures being handled, right? But the flip side is those costs to all those areas of Puerto Rico, Alaska, and Hawaii have the locals there really pissed off, because they are paying top dollar prices to get goods brought in, where they could have foreign flagships do it super cheap. Now, this can be waived. This act, it's been asked to be waived at certain times of necessity over the years. When Puerto Rico got hit with hurricanes, I think maybe 3 or 4 years, 5 years ago now maybe. But when they had all the hurricanes kind of come through and enact all that devastation, there wasn't enough American shipping to support all of the disaster relief that needed to be done. And when you get scenarios like that, then things might need to be waived in order to allow support in. But this is like the last barrier, the last thing that's kind of holding up the American mariner and protecting jobs in America. And a good example is Canada. SIU Canada, they are a union in Canada, and it's not America, but it's important to understand is they have similar laws there. And SIU Canada actually sued the Canadian government back in like 2015, I think it was, because the companies there, they have their own laws that Canadian mariners have to man ships. And there in Canada, they sued the government because there was companies using newly migrated people that were not Canadian citizens to work on ships, and it was taking away jobs from union members. And the union sued, and the country kind of looked at it and said, you're right, and they supported the union and supported their own laws and kind of went back and made sure that things got right-sided. So the unions kind of are the last defense when a lot of these issues kind of come about. And nobody wants to think that their union dues are going to these kind of PACs and money and lobbyists and everything out there. But it's just, unfortunately, it's a dirty deed that kind of gets done. There's good and bad to the Jones Act. I think that everybody kind of weighs in and gives their personal opinions about it. But overall, there will not be an American mariner if the Jones Act wasn't around. And I think it's important that every person that gets into the industry and starts sailing kind of understands the importance of this act to ensure that we are paid accordingly. Because your work, well, you get paid so much for your work, but you're also receiving pay for all the sacrifice you're going to make being in the merchant marine, because you are going to spend days, weeks, months away from your family, away from your loved ones, away from the shore. And it's important that you be compensated accordingly because you live in America. And if they allowed foreign nationals to start sailing on U.S. flagships within our country, it would be devastating. You would not be able to do this job, because foreign mariners will do this job for pennies on the dollar compared to what we demand for ourselves in our own cost of living. So just kind of wanted to share that information with you. Hopefully you guys get some value out of this. Make sure you like, subscribe. Lots of more content coming. Have a good one. Peace.